Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a framework that is literally 2.5 millennia old, yet it offers this incredibly methodical system for finding profound tranquility even amidst the absolute chaos of our modern world. In an era where we're constantly bombarded with digital noise, AI, and just high-speed stress all around, we're going to dive into an ancient text that actually treats human consciousness like an intricate line of code. It's going to teach us how to essentially debug our anxieties by completely deconstructing our sense of reality.
So here's our roadmap for today. 1. The ultimate elephant footprint. 2. Deconstructing the four elements. 3. The illusion of ownership. 4. Enduring the ultimate test. And 5. Seeing dependent origination. We're going to move from a massive metaphor right down to the very code of our consciousness. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The ultimate elephant footprint, the master framework for all realities.
Okay, so our framework kicks off with this brilliantly grounding comparison about scale. The idea is that just as the footprints of every single living creature walking the earth can easily fit inside the massive footprint of an elephant, every positive, wholesome reality in the universe fits neatly into one master framework, the Four Noble Truths. That's suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to its end. It's the ultimate container for the entire human experience, the whole shebang.
Now, to really understand our modern anxieties and why we suffer in the first place, we've got to get deeply analytical. All suffering is, essentially, our desperate attachment to 5 temporary, constantly shifting aggregates that make up our existence. We're talking about form, feeling, perception, fabrications, and consciousness. We have this habit of looking at this bundle of ever-changing variables and saying, yep, this is me. And it's exactly that clinging that forms the root of our distress.
Section 2. Deconstructing the four elements. Breaking down the form aggregate. We're going to zoom in specifically on that very first aggregate, which is form. Notice how this framework totally strips away our ego. It does this by dividing all physical existence into just 4 raw elemental categories. You've got earth, representing solidity, water, representing liquid, fire, representing heat, and wind, representing air. It's asking us to look at ourselves not as these special permanent individuals, but simply as temporary collections of raw natural resources. Let's start with the earth element. Think about feeling your own teeth, your nails, or your bones. That's your internal earth. Now contrast that internal earth with external earth, like massive, towering mountains and vast landscapes. The reality is, even those colossal, seemingly invincible mountains eventually crumble and completely vanish over immense spans of time. Next up is the water element. Think about the tiny amounts of liquid in our bodies, the blood, sweat, tears, bile. Now weigh that against the vast, mighty oceans. And here's the really profound perspective shift. Even these terrifyingly deep external oceans can, across eons, literally dry up to absolutely nothing. They can be reduced to the point where not even a single drop remains to wet your finger. No way, right? But it's true. Then we have the fire element. Consider your own internal digestion and basic body heat. Now weigh that against raging external wildfires that can sweep across entire nations and burn entire cities to the ground. Yet, what inevitably happens? They run out of fuel. They eventually burn themselves out and just disappear into nothingness.
And finally, the wind element. Compare the small puffs of air moving in your lungs and stomach against the absolute terrifying extremes of external weather. Think of massive destructive cyclones that level towns. Or on the flip side, air that is so dead and hot in the late summer that a leaf doesn't even twitch, and you need a palm leaf fan just to catch a breath. Both the internal and the external wind are entirely conditional. They're temporary.
Section 3. The illusion of ownership, confronting the vulnerability of the body. Seeing this stark, undeniable contrast brings us to a really radical psychological pivot. It forces us to ask this ultimate, humbling question. If the massive oceans can literally boil dry and the earth itself can disintegrate, why on earth do we suffer so much over the tiny, fragile, constantly decaying collection of elements that we call our body? I mean, if the mighty external elements aren't permanent, the internal ones definitely aren't either. So the crucial point here is this specific mantra. By looking at our bones, our blood, and our breath, and genuinely repeating this realization, that is not mine, I am not that is not myself, we can achieve profound liberation. It's about becoming utterly disenchanted with physical form. By dropping this whole illusion of ownership, we're promised a state of unshakable peace that is totally insulated from external chaos.
Section 4. Enduring the ultimate test, the mind versus physical pain.
Now, it's super easy to say, I am not my body, when you're sitting comfortably, right? But how does this philosophical non-attachment actually hold up under extreme, terrifying physical adversity? Pragmatically speaking, the body is just a landing pad for physical contact. Because you inhabit a body made of the four elements, it is inevitably going to interact with other elements out there. Sometimes that's verbal attacks, but other times it's literal blows from hands, dirt, sticks, or even severe violence from weapons. This brings us to what's known as the shocking simile of the saw, which sets the absolute highest standard for maintaining a peaceful mind. It presents a genuinely horrifying hypothetical scenario. Even if bandits were actively severing your limbs with the two-handled saw, if you let your mind give in to hatred and anger in that moment, you've failed the practice. The point is, your peace absolutely cannot be conditional on your physical comfort. And look, this level of peace isn't just some passive, apathetic weakness. Not at all. Achieving this requires an incredibly active, powerful, and unyielding mental discipline. Your energy has to be untiring, your mindfulness fiercely established, and your mind completely concentrated to maintain pure equanimity, even when the physical elements you temporarily inhabit are being violently destroyed.
Section 5. Seeing dependent origination, the algorithm of consciousness.
Okay, let's see how all this builds into the final psychological synthesis, revealing how reality is basically constructed like a literal line of code. Using this beautifully simple architectural metaphor, we see that our self really isn't a singular entity. Just like a house is just a handy label we give to a temporary arrangement of wood and clay enclosing some space, a body is just a label for space temporarily enclosed by bones, flesh, and skin. There's no permanent house and no permanent self, it's just assembled parts. And our entire experience of reality breaks down into these precise mechanical steps. Step 1. You need an intact internal sense organ, like a functioning eye. Step 2. An external object has to enter its range. Step 3. Only then does a corresponding consciousness, like visual consciousness, actually arise. It proves that without all three aligning perfectly, our conscious experience literally doesn't even exist. It's just pure cause and effect at work. It's only when this algorithm successfully runs when the organ, the object, and the consciousness all converge that the aggregates of feeling, perception, and form instantly snap together to create what we mistakenly call our reality. This process is happening millions of times a second. It creates a continuous illusion of a self, exactly how rapidly flashing still images create the illusion of a moving film. So here's the ultimate synthesis. Whoever sees this dependent origination sees the Dhamma, the fundamental truth of reality. Observing this precise mechanical chain of events is absolutely the key to mastering the teachings. Because once you see the machinery behind the curtain, you really can't unsee it. The magic trick of the ego completely loses its power over you. It all boils down to this fundamental definition. Every single piece of our experience, every thought, every pain, every little bit of joy is constructed from underlying causes. They are dependently arisen phenomena. Letting go of our clinging to these automatically generated, highly temporary phenomena is the literal definition of achieving lasting peace. If it's constructed, it's going to dismantle, so stop clinging to it.
As you step back out into the high-stress, fast-paced environment of our modern era, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. How much of your current anxiety is simply you clinging tightly to temporary elements and automatically running mental code? By really understanding the sheer mechanics of your own consciousness, what modern anxieties are you finally going to deconstruct and let go of today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I truly hope this ancient framework brings you some profound clarity.